The Boilers win another one, 4 in a row in Big Ten play. First time since 2017-2018 season, but Washington makes it interesting in the second half. Some dominant play in the interior, but how can Purdue find that killer instinct and really step on the throats of some of these teams instead of letting them come back into it like we've seen the last two games? We're going to be talking about it all. Joe Jackson and Kraig Bowers were at Mackey Arena, and so they're going to give us all the inside scoop from there after another Boilers win starting right now. We are back here on Boilers in the Stands postgame show. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr., and alongside me, as always, is Joe Jackson. Kraig Bowers will be joining us here in just a few moments, and by just a few moments, I mean right flipping now. So that's exciting stuff as Kraig joins the program. It was another big win. All wins are big as Purdue tries their journey here to winning another Big Ten title. And also, see what they can do in March in terms of seeding. These are the important games you got to have. There are no days off in the Big Ten, whether you're on the road or you're at home. Obviously, you'd like to see Purdue not play with their food as much as they did in the second half. But at the same time, I don't think we should ever take for granted a Big Ten win, and that's exactly what Purdue got here tonight.
Yeah, it's a game where it was looking like it was going to be another 20-point win. My initial reaction, I'm not concerned long term about Purdue and being able to put these types of games away because I just think with their talent, their skill level, their maturity, and how they've been there before, they're going to be able to rely on it. I honestly because I think the big point from today is going to be Washington being able to make it close again down the stretch and in a game where Purdue controlled really for 30 plus minutes of it. But I honestly don't hate that it happens. Purdue hasn't had any sort of adversity since the Memphis game. I guess the Iowa State game, but even that kind of got out of reach rather quickly to start the second half. So once I guess they sort of have had adversity in a month and a half, I don't mind that it's happened where right again they get up 20, they kind of coast a bit as they've been able to do, and now they got pushed a little bit and right you're able to get that kind of wake up call in a game where you still there's no point where they were ever actually going to lose that game. And if this can be a little bit of a wake up call, or just I don't even know if wake up call is the right word, but just a game where you can kind of refocus and be like, okay, yeah, Big Ten plays here. There's going to be games like this. You have to be able to continue to play. Right, the schedule's been relatively easy for Purdue over the last month or so, and Penn State coming up should be another game where they should be able to impose their will. But also, Penn State has almost beat Michigan and Michigan State. So I think my takeaway is just this is a game where hopefully you can kind of just push the right buttons, get Purdue back on track, and I don't even want to say back on track. They're still winning games and controlling these games, but just get them that extra little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I the word that you use there, the phrase that you use there, Greg, is exactly what I put in my notes, which was played with their food too long. And Braden gets in foul trouble. That really, to me, kind of made this game feel a little bit disjointed. The team kind of operates quite a bit differently when he's out compared to when he's in, and it just, I don't know. It felt like when Braden came back in, he hits a three pretty quickly after that, and then it just felt disjointed and more defensively probably than anything. And then down the stretch, obviously, Peterson goes off and goes 4 for 4, or from three, hits 4 threes in a row in terms of his shot attempts there. We talked about him a little bit in the preview show about he's only a 34% shooter on the year, but he's a guy that once he gets on a streak, he can rattle a bunch of them off in a row. And one guy getting on a heater, and in that same time period, CJ misses a couple from the corner. Clough misses a couple of real easy putbacks right at the rim. I think TK did too. And all of a sudden, this game gets interesting, And I think to Joe's point, I don't mind this either. And you want to see him just keep the foot down on the gas all the way through to the end and put it away, and never leave it in doubt. But you kind of saw, for those of you guys who watch Big Ten basketball in general, Penn State fought really hard last night, but it looked like Michigan was a little bit bored, kind of let that game last too long and realize, hey, we can't just turn it on immediately and put things away. And it felt like that a little bit in the second half tonight of like Purdue almost looked a little bored. And then all of a sudden they weren't bored because things got real interesting towards the end.
I think Braggs is trying to talk.
I can't tell. He's on mute.
I was on mute. Then I tried to take Kraig's lower third off, and then I hit the stats button. This is just where I'm at right now. I've failed you guys in so many ways here lately. What I was gonna say was, and maybe I got an itchy trigger finger, is I get where you guys are coming from. I can appreciate the spin zone of like, hey, nothing wrong with being tested a little bit. It's been a while. Understand, what the competition is and the focus can move a little bit when, it's been a minute since they played in a competitive game. That being said, this is 2 games in a row now. So if I'm the coaching staff and I'm trying to pull whatever I can to find a competitive edge for my basketball team that can coast in any game they play in because of how efficient they are, especially on the offensive end. But the defense they played in the second half, and I know we spent a lot of time on this program talking offense, and we probably should look a little more on the defensive side of the ball. You just can't – like Washington's a very good scoring team. That's the other takeaway I had on this game. It's like, wow, I don't watch too many of the Big Ten teams on the West Coast, and I know Joe and Kraig, you guys certainly do. So I was just very surprised at the talent level Washington had. So I'll give them credit for shot-making ability and some of the skill that they have. That being said, I didn't think Purdue's defense was very good in the second half either. And so you can play with your food all you want, and we can spin zone it and give you a pass for the respect that this program deserves. That being said, you're going to get snake bitten if you keep messing around like this. And why it's so important to me is they do need a 1 seed. We've talked about this. This, to me, is their top priority goal. I'd put it over winning the Big Ten. I'd put it over. I mean, I think they work hand in hand winning the Big Ten and having a 1 seed. But, I understand who the rest of the Big Ten, you got Nebraska, Michigan, whatever. The bottom line for me is they need to have a 1 seed. So there needs to be another level of focus. You've got 17 more games to go, or 16, 17 more games to go. And they have to have a championship level focus. And I just feel like the last 2 games that you got to be careful with that. I'm not saying that we sound the alarms, but I do say if I'm the coaching staff, I'm going to get them on point here for Saturday.
I'm a little confused about why you're saying 2 games. We beat Wisconsin by 16 on the road in the Kohl Center.
I understand that, but when Braden broke the record, then all of a sudden, they like let
they
off
looked
the
like they looked like they didn't care at all after that, to be honest.
That's fair. Yeah, we did talk about that.
That's to me where it built to this game, where that game, okay, they let go of the rope, no big deal. He broke the record. They still win but then tonight they got it under 8, or they got it to 8. They got it under 10, I should say. They made it where it actually was interesting. And then Braden does what Braden does, the high dribble handoff, one on the right elbow, one on the left elbow, splash. And that's pretty impressive that he wasn't really like fighting to find those shots. He's out there doing his maneuvering to try to find the assist. And then in moments where they needed him to knock down a big bucket, each time Braden Smith did it. So that speaks to how good he is, that he could just turn that switch on those possessions where they needed it. But I would just say, like, if I'm the coaching staff, I'm going to use this to my advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have no doubt that they're going to. Like, Painter's not going to be happy to the players about this, but I bet when he gets back in the office with his staff, he's like, hey, like we can rip into them now and like kind of get them going again. Because, right, like you said, Braxton, because I do agree. I agree with you on that too. Like, it's now happened 2 games in a row where in two varying degrees. Wisconsin's wasn't quite as bad as this one, and still even in this one, the closest that Washington got it was 8s, I think.
Yeah.
But you don't want it to see it keep happening. like you can kind of write off the last one of like the whole Braden record breaking thing. Like that's not going to happen. Like, well, that won't happen until like a tournament game, and you would just expect Purdue to have a different level of focus, anyways. This one is like, all right, it happened once. Now, if it happens to like Penn State's or a couple, I don't know how they'll do exactly in like the LA games, but those types of games and these teams that they can and should put away, like like Michigan has for much of the season, like Iowa State has for much of the season. Those things do add up. So it can't become a trend. It has to just be kind of a blip that Painter can now use to be like, all right, guys, like, yeah, sure, we won, but there's a whole lot to get better at.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't want people to take it too far on what I'm trying to say here, but I'm not giving as much of a pass this time around. Now, that being said, the bigs were absolutely outstanding in this game, so we'll highlight that. Obviously, I felt like in the first half, the Purdue goes on a 9-0 run to start the game. You really thought the game was going to be out of hand at that point, so credit Washington for clawing back even early on. I know they clawed back to start the second half, but I thought that was a pivotal moment in the game, and they didn't call a timeout either, which I found to be a little surprising when it started out 9-0 right away. The bigs for Purdue were just absolutely outstanding, so we'll go over that. And I also thought, as much as Purdue turned the ball over, which I think is something we need to look at, but they forced a lot of turnovers, especially in the first half as well, to get Washington off their game. So, those are some of my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, this is a game that, right, it was very good for 30 minutes. Like the defense of the first half was incredible, and then they just kind of got soft in the second half. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit more in a sec. Just some of the different things that they did defensively today, but offensively, like I think for the most part they got their shots. Braden and TKR had a couple just random turnovers you don't expect, and they ended up with 6 apiece, which you don't ever expect, and that can contribute some. But even like I think Braden ball just slipped out of his hands a couple times. TKR throws like a floater lob that should have just been a shot, but and everybody thinks it's a shot, but then it's a pass, and like just little things like that kind of added up. And then you combine that with like CJ going cold in the second half for the most part. I know he did hit the one big time pull up. Loyer's still not shooting great, obviously. Like it just kind of all added into things where it's only an 8-point win, but also like if you were to go back and just watch the first 30 minutes of this game, you're like, oh wow, Purdue was incredible and they controlled this game on both ends.
Yeah, real. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Rowlett and Rickus in the chat going after me for my negativity. I'm sorry, everyone. I am demanding perfection. That's what we're gonna have here on Boilers in the Sands. I don't know what kind of operation Matt Painter's running, and maybe I gotta make a call to him or Sasha and see what's going on here. But on my side of things, I'm demanding perfection, ladies and gentlemen.
We've also aside from the Iowa State game, and even that was just kind of like, oh wow, Purdue missed every open shot imaginable. Like we haven't had a post game where we could like actually talk about things in a month and a half.
Yeah.
And even this was just like, hey, Washington cut it from 18 to 8. Like it's not even like it was like a.
Well, and that's the thing, like, because there was a guy in the comments like a couple weeks ago. They're like, okay, Joe, like, because you said, I think you set it up like we have a few times, like there's not too much to take from this game, not this game, but a different game. And the guy was frustrated by saying like, okay, quit saying that. Like, why tune in or whatever? Like, well, it's not that we're never going to make more out of something than it is. And I'm not trying to do that here just because this is the first close game in a while. But it is one of those things where Purdue has gotten to a point as a program where 3 years ago when we were doing these shows, we'd never have games like this, especially over a month span where it's like, well, Purdue's just doing what Purdue does. And so I do feel like you kind of get lulled into sleep a little bit and you take for granted just how efficient they are, just how easily they can beat teams handedly. And the Big Ten is never easy. And so the fact that they're able to kind of coast through games the way they have, you are trying to try to find the right things to analyze in that regard. So like for me in this game, there is something to analyze here. It is a blip. It's not a trend, but the last 2 games and what they're doing in the second half in terms of attention to detail on the defensive end is something that should be focused on, because I can promise you the coaching staff is going to do that. So we can all wipe it off as fans or analysts or podcasters, but I promise you the coaching staff is going to have a hard look at this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're certainly right, and the Bears win a few games, and all of a sudden Greg wants perfection all the time from everybody, but it is what it is. For me though, this game, in terms of like takeaways from this game, the thing that stood out to me was defense. Or sorry, I can't speak all of a sudden. Was the defense in the first half, and even to a degree, somewhat the first 10 minutes in the second half. I don't think it was quite as good as it was in the first half, but I thought they did a lot of really, really good things. We talked, in the preview show about the fact that this team does have skill, Greg. There are guys on this team that can go out and make one-on-one plays. There are guys that want to get downhill, that are athletic, can pull up and hit a mid-range shot. You saw Zoom do that. You saw Claude do that. They have that ability. And I thought in the first half that, that's something Purdue guards struggle with at times. And I thought in the first half, Purdue did a really nice job of forcing those guys into help, trying to keep the ball in front. And when they didn't, making sure they forced it into help. The bigs and even guards that came over to help, I thought did a really nice job of just walling up. And you saw, I want to say there was 3 or 4 travel calls where guys just went into traffic and then panicked and traveled. Got a few steals off that too. Turnovers were huge in the first half. We had a really large advantage in terms of points off turnovers in that first half. I thought that was really, really big. And then you said the bigs. Obviously, TK was on fire today from a shooting standpoint, but more importantly, I think they finished plus 12 in rebounding today. And let's give a shout out to the bench. 20 bench points today. Thought they were impressive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Joe, do you have anything to add before we kind of move on? I saw you prepping the board. I think that's what I was watching.
Yeah.
Sneak a
board.
Board.
Yeah, we'll go there just because talking about what they did defensively and what stood out to me, and it was that defending pick and rolls, they were in a high hedge for 90% of this game, and they've mixed it in during certain times this season. Like it's not like it's a foreign concept to Purdue's defense, but it was very blatant today that like the objective was to push the guards out and just kind of recover. And so we'll do a quick overview. So this is where Washington, as I readjust, Washington is on offense in this play. Purdue's on defense, indicated by the numbers. X is offense. And so high hedge, right, is where whoever's this big guarding this player, when the ball handler comes off the screen, he's going to jump out this way to try to push the ball handler back, right? And then that should allow your guy to recover. And then even if there's a roll, you can kind of work back and get back. And they did in the first half, they did a very good job of, I think, pushing out, getting back quickly, and having the correct rotations where they felt pretty timely. They felt pretty, for the most part, pretty physical. And what that resulted in is Washington just not being able to get to the rim all that much, right? They got into the paint a little bit, but it was very rare for them to get all the way to the rim. And I think in the second half, when Washington went with Steinbach at the 5, because Frank Kepnang fouled out, I think what it kind of did is open up the floor a little bit, honestly, for Washington, where as I get this reset, now when this high ball screen happens here, right? So high ball screen, Washington was set up. I'm trying to just do this without the glare, but you think by now I'd figure it out. I still haven't. Where as they come off the screen now, what they did is this was not Muldrew. Although I do like Cortland Muldrew on their team. This is Peterson, Quimari Peterson, who hit a bunch of threes. They would put him in this weak side corner over here. So now as ball screen happens, you have your bigs in the hedge, you have a roller. This guy has to tag the roller. That was usually Fletch, kind of his responsibility. He has to tag this roll because the big is all the way out here trying to push the ball back. And so what that did is ball handler guy here got a couple skip passes. I mean, Loyer still contested it decently well, honestly, but I think there's a little bit of give and take with it of like they did a good job early having the correct rotations, being physical. And then in the second half, I think they got a little bit too spaced out, it almost felt like. And it just put Purdue in a little bit of a bind where they had to kind of figure out what they wanted to do. I do think that's part of the game plan was to make Washington a shooting team. I would expect, right? They're not a great 3-point shooting team. And so I think it was just little differences in that second half. Also, Washington just making jumpers, like that just helps. But then even on some of the rolls, it felt like Washington was able to kind of bury a little bit deeper inside the paint, get a little bit closer to the rim. When Jacobson was in, he really struggled in this high hedge. It was that was what I was most surprised is like even Jacobson was in it, and he struggled to just to kind of be able to get out and really push the guard back. So
Yeah.
the good and the bad, I would say today. Like there was definitely positives from it, but then there was also a little bit of negative.
Yeah, and Rickus Mortis in the comments was saying I thought that he thought Clough was hedging a lot this year, and he does. He definitely does more than what Jacobson normally does. But there's levels to that, right? You can hedge at level. You can really come out high and really try to push those guards back. We've seen Clough do that some, but it was excessive and dramatic tonight. And then Jacobson was also doing it as well. Jesus,
Brags, man.
Kraig, like, learn how to podcast, my brother.
Well, I'm trying to get you guys at St. Elmo's dinner in the Final Four. Thank you very much. So, maybe you don't realize the 3D chess I'm playing over here, and I need an excuse to go there anyway. Regardless, I think the other big storyline of this game, or not big, or notable storyline in this game is something you don't see that often, and that's Braden Smith not starting the second half. And so you see Omar Meyer come in and, if you want to go to the minutes chart, maybe that could give the full picture for people. But that was, as Kraig pointed out, something that kind of threw off their normal symmetry of how they kind of lay out games. But go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, minutes chart here for anybody that's new. Color box means that player played that minute. I think the main talking point for the rotation is Meyer starts the second half. Braden had 3 fouls, and Painter just opted to sit him for the first 4 and then let him go the rest of the game. And Braden didn't even pick up a single foul in the second half. Seems like the major storyline, but also so on the bottom there's Purdue margin. That's what that lineup was plus minus in their time. They in the 8 minutes that Braden sat to end the first half and start the second half, Purdue was a +5. Like, that's not to say that Purdue is better without him. Obviously, it's just more of just like, hey, they were able to survive without him on the floor in this one.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
question.
and even if they're +5 in that stretch, like just the continuity, right? It can disrupt the continuity of how you're playing, the style you're playing, how much you play so much faster with Braden on the court and than you do with Meyer on the court, because Meyer just takes a little bit longer to process everything, is a little bit more methodical about it. And I think that was after Smith got back in the second half where like Trey and him run a little side pick and roll, and like Trey just wasn't wasn't ready for the ball at all, right? It's just little things like that in terms of continuity and a little bit of disruption, I think, that can throw it off.
Well, in that regard, I think that was reflective in the turnovers. I believe Purdue had 14 turnovers as a team on the night, so maybe we can take a look at the team stats and go over that, but that certainly stood out to me. The first half, I'm not really sure. I would, if I had to guess, the majority of them came in the second half because it felt switched in the first half, so I'm a little surprised when you look at the team stats that Purdue gets 14 turnovers and Washington only had 13. You wouldn't have guessed that, I felt like, through 10 minutes of this game. But Purdue ends up shooting 57% from the field. They hold Washington to 44%, 31% from 3. Purdue 5 of 15 from the 3-point line, 8 of 12 from the free throw line. And then in points off turnovers, 17 to 13. But total rebounds, as Kraig highlighted, 37 to 25. And second chance points, 15 for Purdue. So that was a big number for them as well. Points in the paint, 42 for Purdue. So some different things to look at. 19 assists on 34 made buckets. Braden Smith gets 7 of those, so behind his season average of 9.6 going into the game. So for those of you charting the all-time record, he's going to have to make up for a couple assists he missed out on in this game, and obviously sitting out a few more minutes than he normally does played into that, and Purdue obviously led for the entire game. So those are the team stats. I know we've been through the rebounds and the assists. Is there anything you guys want to add before we get to player breakdowns?
36 points in the paint for Washington. I would have to go back, but that feels like it'll be one of the higher ones that Purdue has given up this season, and I won't be able to look at the stats really till tomorrow that we need to define this out. But I would bet more of them came in the second half. I would bet out of the 36, probably I don't know, 22, 24 came in the second half, and 12 or 14 came in the first half. And I think that just goes back to a little bit of what I talked about defensively, just like um, being put in a little bit different spots than they're used to, with that big now being pushed out means that he's not being able to there protect the rim, and then that means it's like Loyer or CJ or somebody like that often having to really protect the rim. Washington had Steinbach's incredibly skilled too. Like he's good for 2 to 3 buckets a game of just like, I don't know how he got that shot off, and then somehow it still goes in around like 3 defenders in the paint. So that also can add things a little bit, but that's the only one that I think really stood out of what I'd want to call out.
Washington only had 10 points in the paint in the first half.
Okay, yeah, that checks out.
A lot came in the second half. I think the only other thing that I would really point out is Purdue shot 57% in this game. Like they shot the ball really well in terms of a shooting percentage. So don't want to take away from that. I think, we look at the 3-point percentage and we're like, oh, 5 of 15. That's just an okay game. 33%, I think, on the night is what they end up. Certainly so, but Purdue was like money in their mid-range tonight. And that's primarily Braden Smith, but a couple other guys hit him too. We'll get to some other guys. Meyer hit some shots tonight. Just a good shooting night for the most part, other than one guy we'll talk about coming up that did not shoot the ball well.
Yeah, 57% from the field. So, take it as they were talking about on the halftime broadcast. You take away the 3 for Purdue, and then they just beat you on the inside. I thought it was an efficient night for the bigs. As I said earlier, I thought it was a really impressive night for all 3 of those guys at different points, at least on the offensive end. It's not my play of the game, so when you talk about rebounds, I'll add this to it because it was going to be my play of the game until I highlighted a different point in the second half that I really appreciated. But there was a point in the first half where a 3 ball went up, and Oscar Clough was following for the putback dunk. He missed it, but it was a great follow. And then Jack Benner followed Oscar Clough, and he put it in. And there was just something about the rotation of people following the shot there that I really appreciated in terms of crashing the boards. And that's winning basketball, the relentlessness and the second chance and the third chance points. And so for me, that was a big play in the game, or at least one that I really appreciated. Didn't end up making the cut for my play of the game, nomination, but wanted to highlight it here since we talked about it.
Yeah, no, I that was a good one because I do remember that too and kind of jotted that down. Yeah, Benner's was solid once again.
Still on his streak of
true.
Yeah, he's still, like I'm an official ball knower, and I told you guys that Jack Benner's the greatest of all time. And I don't think he's gonna miss again for the rest of his career. And so, mark it down. 3 years from now, we're gonna look back on this, and he'll still have this streak going, and then you'll have to concede to me just how my wide span of ball knowledge.
I'm gonna say if he goes a full season not missing and is actually shooting, he probably just will be going and making millions in the NBA. But I do like the optimism.
All right, well, let's get into player breakdowns. Go ahead and take it wherever you guys like.
We got to start, I think, with Braden. To me, like that was an incredible shot making performance. 23 points on 10 to 15 shooting, goes 1 of 2 from 3, 7 assists, did have the 6 turnovers, 3 steals, 3 fouls, like we've mentioned, only 28 minutes of play. The shot making was just incredible. Like time after time after time, just pull up, getting to his spot, elevating, doesn't matter who's in front of him. He's just going to make it. He's now shooting 50.5% from 2 on the season, which would be his career high. And 50.5 doesn't sound all that impressive, but like when you take into the accounts the types of shots he takes, and also that defenses sell out on trying to make him not have the ball. Like Washington was in a high hedge today. Like their main objective was to try to push Braden out and force him to pass the ball. And what he would do is just drag the big out, turn the corner, and get to his spot if he didn't hit TKR or anybody on the short roll. So just like the turnovers were their own thing, and a couple of them I think were just kind of random. But the shot making, like Purdue, if Braden doesn't have his shot making today, like Purdue's actually could have been in trouble of losing this.
Yeah, and I think one of the more important plays of the game, I believe it was down to 8, and Braden just kind of, again, drags that big out, turns the corner, dribbles into just a real nice little 18-footer, takes it casually, drains it, gets the lead back up. So I'm with you 100%, and I think I don't know. You correct me if you can think of another game, Joe. But for me, I thought this was by far and away the most aggressive he has come out all year in terms of hunting his shot. Some like almost first tonight, before he was really worried about getting everybody else the ball in that first half. And I mean that mid range is so deadly. And like last game, he hits that one where he's loses the ball, grabs it from his feet, and still gets it up somehow and hits it. And tonight he didn't have any that were quite that difficult, but certainly just a really, really impressive performance from him in that standpoint. Obviously, some super highlight passes that may come up in plays of the game later on as well. 6 turnovers for him and TK both. Like, it makes you raise your eyebrows a little bit. I'm with you that I thought a couple of them were kind of a little weird, but I thought a few of them on both cases were just a little bit careless too. And I think that feeds into the, like, don't play with your food too long sort of thing. Do need to give him a shout out because he crosses 900 points in his career tonight as well. So give him his props on that as well. I thought he was good defensively on Diallo in the first half too. Like really, really good. And until he picked up that third foul.
We all know what you meant, but yes, 900 assists eclipsed. You said
900 assists. My bad.
Yeah. It's fine. And David Dillman said in the chat, like, he's kind of become the Zach Edey, of the program where we highlight so many things. We're like, oh yeah, let's talk about the best player on the court, and that's kind of how this show started where, apart from the couple baskets that I mentioned that he made in those pivotal moments at the end to keep the game out of reach, we did kind of wait forever to get to the point of Braden, and what he brought to this game, and as you said, 23.7 assists, ho-hum, didn't have 12 assists, so was a down night for him passing. It's just like it's one of those things where you don't want to take it for granted, but it's like human nature because of the effortlessness and the efficiency that he shows, that Edey showed, that this team shows, that there's just times where 6 years ago when we all first met or however long it's been, like we used to freak out about things like this and this level of play. And now they've done it for so long that we're just like, there it is. 23-7, Purdue wins. Wasn't really that much of a fight. Let's break it down, and it's just such a transformation this program's had over the last 5 to 10 years. And it's fun. It's a good thing. But that means the pressure will go up, as we get, these last 17 games wind down. I did find it interesting too that they, I know we are getting up to date on where he's at on the all-time assist record, but the way they broke it down on the broadcast tonight was like, all right, if he averages 11 assists a night for the next 17, he'll break it the final game of the season. If he averages 10 assists a night, it'll happen somewhere in the Big Ten tournament. And if it's below that, it might take 23 games if he averages 8 assists a night. His season average is 9.6. So I did because it's like, wow, well, there's only 17 of these left. This is going to go quick. We're going to be to the Big Ten tournament before you know it. And I thought that they made a good point. Like, wouldn't it be cool if he broke the all-time record at the Big Ten tournament? And I kind of agreed with them. As cool as it would be to do it at Mackey, it would be cool if all these coaches, all these schools, all these fans, that when the Big Ten brings all that together, if he were to break it in front of all those people, obviously you want Mackey first, but it would also be cool if something like that were to happen. If he breaks it in March Madness, it's more of it will be a celebrated moment, but the wins and the losses are so important at that point. Braden won't even want to talk about it. So you just hope it happens prior to that so it can be a celebrated moment.
Yeah, I want that thing to happen before March Madness starts. Get it out of the way in the Big Ten tournament. Have your moment. Don't have it be something that's like in anybody's mind, in the first round or first or second game of the NCAA tournament. Also, Joe, do you remember like a few games into this season where we were like, are we sure Braden Smith's mid-range is okay?
I do.
Like, do we have any questions about that? Like we were asking back then, and we were asking the same thing about TKR's floater. And I think both of those things have been answered, especially Braden's mid-range.
I mean, before tonight, I don't think this might be updated for tonight, but I believe before tonight he was shooting 57% on pull-up twos. And that would probably go up after nights. That is an insane percentage to shoot from the mid-range. Like absurd. Like guys don't do that. That's not normal. And especially at his size and the way that defenses have to play him, like it is just that's not normal.
All right. Well, let's move it along. Where do you guys want to take it to next?
Let's go to TKR. 14 points, 14 rebounds, 7 of them offensive, 6 assists, 6 turnovers, 6-11 from the field, 2 or 3 from the free throw line. I always go first, so Kraig, I'll throw it to you. What were your thoughts on TKR? I don't want to always go first.
One of the things that I bring up quite a bit about Trey is it feels like a lot of times he comes out of the gate a little bit slow, and he has to miss a couple, and he has to kind of body up a little bit. And then you'll see that first one go, and Greg's just throwing crap up in front of my face. You'll see that first one go, and then that Wisconsin game, I was mentioned I was talking to my son because he's like, "Why? Where's Trey? Like, why is he going?" I said, "Wait till that first one goes, and then he's going to hit like 5 or 6 in a row." And a lot of times his scoring goes that way. I was really impressed tonight because he came up and got to that 2-3 foot little bank shot instead of having to go to his floater right off the jump, and was aggressive early, but just got going right away tonight. And then obviously again continues his rebounding dominance, 14 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds. I thought his passing was incredible in the first half. There was a moment I was watching being like, is he gonna get a triple double before Braden? Like the way the assists were racking up there, and just a really beautiful pass to Jacobson on a lob play that could have been my play of the game. It's not going to be anymore, but just an awesome sequence all the way around, but especially from Trey. So I thought he was really, really good. Again, the only blemish that really comes tonight is those 6 turnovers. And a couple of times it was just not protecting the ball when he got down in the paint and just being a little bit careless with it.
Yeah, and I would say that's just kind of the theme. Like Purdue is just a little bit careless, a little bit just off. And the thing is, Purdue is so good that their little bit off is still good enough to beat, I don't know, 75% of the Big Ten, we'll say, probably. And so that's just kind of where they're at. I'm with you, TKR. Like, was very aggressive. I thought he was very impressive, kind of off the jump. A couple times too, just kind of like bullying his way. Like, I feel like we haven't seen that quite as much of just like, no, I'm going to get to my spot, and you cannot stop me. You already mentioned the passing. Yes, some turnovers come with it, the good and the bad, where he's making some good reads, probably overpassed a little bit at times. I would say that account for a couple of them where it's just like, yeah, just go up with that one. Like, just go up with that one. It would have been fine. But yeah, monster on the glass too. And then I know like the raw rebounding numbers go back and forth, honestly, of just like, right, some games TKR boxes out a ton and Clough's the one that ends up with the ball. Sometimes Clough's the one that boxes out a ton and TKR ends up with the ball. But again, just like, I know at this point we just take it almost for granted, but like imagine like I'll go through his stats last season. Like he had 15 rebounds once, he had 13 rebounds once, and that was it. Like he had a couple some tens in there as well. But like it's becoming more of a more common theme for him to just end up with 12, 13, 14 type of rebounds. So I don't want to like overlook that just because it has been continually very good for him. Anything else on TKR?
I just, the only other thing I was gonna say, that play where he shot fakes and then steps through, that was a thing of beauty tonight. that made everybody stand up, and you could hear an audible awe throughout the entire building off of that play. But really, really good footwork. I'm with you. There was a couple times it felt like he kind of got into his passing and then overdid it once or twice. He had a turnover, I think, trying to get it to Clough down low, and like it was there, but he went up in the motion like he was going to shoot that push shot.
Yeah.
And like nobody in the entire arena or his teammates thought he wasn't going to take that shot. So like, go ahead and take it. You're 4 foot from the rim, buddy.
Yep, 100%. That step through you're talking about, was that the little like 1-footed bank shot?
No, that was a different one.
Because that one was
this was real early in the first half. I think maybe a 5th and 6 point. Like he kind of did a turnaround, went up. One guy like steps by, the second guy bites on it and jumps, and then he just kind of steps through and goes up and scores.
Yeah, yep. That one. I love the little floater. Like it was just like, I don't even know. It was just kind of like he was like, oh, I could just like shoot this, right? Like I could just do this, I guess. It was like almost just like an act of free will of like, oh, I can just like jump off one leg and shoot this at the backboard and put it in. Like, sure. So
you know what that was? You remember like in 3rd grade or like gym class where they had you doing like the old school layups? You know, where you like dribbled up and you shot it. Like it was like he went off 1 foot and did the like old school like 1950s layup style.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's honestly what it was. Couple super chats and we'll get to some of the other players. Late Night Tips Live said, with 499 said, points well taken, Bragg. Seniors only have 8 or so games left to put on the jersey. And Mackey, let's not be bored anymore and aim to stomp everyone out. I think that would be good, especially like sometimes the margins will affect the net, like the ratings and all that, and that can affect seeding. And I know it's January, but all those things kind of add up. Plus, only 8 more games in Mackey for one of like this will be one of the iconic senior groups in Purdue history, right? There's a few of them, obviously, but this will go down as one of those kind of trios. So, yeah, the kind of a little sad. Only 8 more games of them in Mackey, but $5 super chat from Salty B as well. So tired of seeing defenders diving at a player's leg on a loose ball. What's official rule on contact on loose balls? TKR lucky to escape injury. I don't remember the specific play that you're referencing. I would say in general, it's as I feel like as long as you're not like diving into somebody's leg purposefully, it's not a foul. But if you like dive and then they like move into it, it feels like a big gray area. I don't have a great answer. I don't know. You guys got anything?
I don't. We'd have to talk to Isaiah on that one.
Yep. So, all right. Braggs is back too. So get on to the next player and Kraig, I'll let you pick next to wherever you want to go because I think there's a few different players.
Let's go to CJ.
All right, CJ, 11 points, only 3 of 8 shooting, 2 of 6 from 3, did knock down all 3 of his free throws, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers in 28 minutes of play. Kraig, thoughts on CJ?
I thought the first half was really, really good. Thought he did well defensively in the first half. I thought his shot making in the first half was really good too. Hits that again. They don't do it often, but they ran some action for him to get that 3 right at the top of the key. It seems to be something that PJ's really comfortable with at the beginning of, fairly early on in the games. Hits that 3 where he gets fouled, right? Gets a 4-point play out of that as well. Then in the second half, he couldn't buy a bucket. Like, he is deadly on those corner 3s, and he just could not buy a bucket in the second half. And unfortunately, it was in the stretch when Peterson was going absolutely nuts, and this game probably doesn't get as close as it was if he managed to knock down 1 or 2 of those. But when that game's really tight, and they deny Braden the ball, that's a moment where a lot of times this team would panic and trying to get Braden the ball. The ball never left CJ's hands on that play. It stayed in his hands the entire time. And for him to be able to just go one-on-one and score in a really critical moment, I thought was absolutely huge.
Yeah, I think it showed the development of him, and we don't see it a ton, right? Because he is the 5th option offensively when on the floor. Or the 4th option, I guess, depending on whatever you want to count Clough or Jacobson. But there is that a little bit to him of just like, yeah, I'm shifty, like I can get to my spot. I mean, he is at Purdue because in a game that Painter was watching, he just went nuts with his shot making. Like it was one of the crazier AAU like shot making performances I've seen in the players I've scouted over the last few years. And you could just saw that a little bit, and you saw even like he had that really nice wraparound bounce pass to Clough, um, which I'm glad he got to, because that's another one where it's like the play happened, and then I had to remind myself like, okay, no, Braden's like not a normal passer, because I saw it was like, oh, that pass is there, and then the pass eventually happened. And so I was like, well, it was there already. But then it's like, oh wait, no, that Braden Smith's probably the only one that makes that pass that early. Like that's not normal. So CJ still really good read there with the wraparound bounce pass. You saw a couple of the little bit of the facilitating. So it's not in high dosage, but like there just is that little bit to CJ. I am with you though. Like first half thought he was very good. It was an inverse of last game to me, where last game I thought his first half was pretty bad, second half was great. This one, first half was great, second half was okay. Like took good shots, missed them. That's fine. Thought he got burned a little bit more defensively than what we're accustomed to. But overall, still like positive on the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed by that pass to Oscar Clough in the second half. And it made me think about, because of what you were talking about, Kraig, with Omar Meyer and everyone acting or suggesting that he is going to be next in line for the role of Braden Smith and the facilitator and the point guard and the quarterback of the offense. And when I watched him do that, and just how much quicker he is kind of with everything that he does compared to Omar Meyer at this point. And I know he's still very young in his tenure. I guess my question to you guys would be, like, what do you think CJ's role will be next year when Braden is gone? Do you think they'll put more trust in him before Omar Meyer and still continue to develop Omar? Or are they going to hand the keys to the car to him and let CJ stay in the role he's currently at?
CJ,
go ahead.
I was gonna like, to me, CJ and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as this player, but like he's more of the Carson role to me, where he can just be a super high volume scorer. And then like if you need him to handle the ball and initiate all the offense, you can, but you're also going to work him a lot off ball and let Meyer bring up the ball, so that way you can run the off ball action for CJ and then let him get his looks there. And again, don't think I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Carson or anything like that, but I think he has that kind of ability to him to be able to get to.
Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with that. And I think it becomes a situation that we're really similar to Carson. You can put the ball in his hands and just let him go from the jump. Or you can let Meyer run, a full set and run CJ off a lot of the same actions that they ran for Carson. I think that's a really good call out, Joe. But I'm of the belief that that CJ's our leading scorer next year. I don't know that Joe's there yet with me, but I see him more in that Carson Edwards type role, 100%.
Yeah, well, you're forgetting about a guy named Jack Benter, who had 2 points on the night, 1 of 1 shooting. So there's the breakdown on Jack. Where do you guys want to take it next?
I guess we'd probably talk about Loyer. Right, 2 of 8. Right, that the stats are so small. 2 of 8, 4 from 3. Did have 5 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, a turnover, 2 steals in 30 minutes of play. To me, the difference this year with this Loyer shooting slump is he is playing defense. Like he is not a negative defensively out there right now. Will he get burned some? Yeah, but like I said, like CJ Jakari, they got burned today some too. Like it's not like you can't hold. You can't when Loyer gets burned once or twice, like you can't be like, oh yeah, Lawyer's a terrible defender, because like he hasn't been. Is he an all Big Ten defensive guy? Absolutely not. But like he's for the most part making the right rotations. He's in the right spots. Like that's the difference to me this year. Is like he's when the shots aren't falling, he's still just able to contribute, and that's not necessarily been the case before. But I don't know. He just needs to keep shooting. Like Purdue needs him in March. I'd rather him miss all these shots now than in March.
Yeah, and I think it feels like the shooting has been more off than it is, because I think in 2 of his last 4 games, he shot 50% from 3 on high volume. There was a stretch of 3 games where he goes like 1 of or 0 for whatever, but he had tonight. He had a game where he goes 0 for 7. I think the comfort you take as a Purdue fan is this team still shot 33% without Loyer hitting threes. And we've seen that in a couple of the games, not Iowa State, obviously, but in a couple of games where he struggled to shoot. I think we just got a lot more guys that can do it. Obviously, CJ stepped up in the first half and hit a couple. Omar, thankfully, that jump shot looked good again tonight. Hits a couple as well. So I saw some stat, Joe. I don't remember who put it out. And obviously, I think the stat, if you're trying to make a conclusion that Fletcher's like an all Big Ten defensive player, I don't think that's the conclusion you should draw from it. But there was some stat that was put out, like his on-off numbers, like the difference in Purdue's defense was like one of the highest in the country of him being on-off.
I did see that stats. Right. I don't think it means like anything, but it was cool to see.
Yeah.
I think it's like, but I do think it's fair. Like Loyer's been better. Like he's just been better defensively. Like there's not many moments of the game where it's just like, oh yeah, man, Loyers just can't be in there right now. Like there's none of that.
And the thing is, like, he's not going to miss a rotation. He's not going to miss an assignment. When he gets beat, it's because he gets beat physically by somebody that's quicker, stronger, whatever. It's, there's still some guys out there that are still trying to learn and completely get in the flow that do sometimes just run to the wrong spot or not dig down and double when they should, or that type of thing.
Yeah, I would say as much as Braden has been revered for 4 years, Fletcher's been picked on for 4 years by analysts or this fan base at times. And it just, I don't know what it is about that role in Painter's program, but, and this isn't a personal thing, but I saw it a lot with Sasha as well for 4 years. And even prior to that, Ryan Klein, I know Ryan earned legendary status for, a couple games in March that will never be forgotten. And so now he's remembered and loved and cherished the way he should be, of course. We appreciate Ryan, friend of the program. But it is interesting, even Ryan, prior to that March Madness run, he'd get heat for different reasons. And there's somewhat of an expectation for that role for those guys to, never miss shots and then be picked on for what their flaws are defensively and not an appreciation for what their roles are on the team and what they bring in terms of intangibles that Painter is looking for in a system, and so I've just always kind of found that fascinating about that spot. I'm not worried about Fletcher Loyer's shooting. If that's the worst of this team's problems right now, this team is going to be all right because he's a great shooter. He's one of the greatest shooters in Purdue basketball history. And so, I just think people need to, understand what his role is, what his responsibilities are, and understanding and be fair to what the capabilities are and see how much trust Painter puts in guys like that. And then, instead of harping on what they can't do, appreciate what they can do.
Fair. And I mean, I haven't been as involved online, but I do think it felt like Loyer's gotten at least a little bit more respect. Like there hasn't, if this was Loyer last year, like everybody's calling for his starting spot, but I don't think I've seen that. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just my feed in that, but I think you are 100% right, Brax. Like you can be critical and also still acknowledge what he's doing well. All right, can we maybe get through a couple of these guys a little quicker? It's nearing midnight, and I got over an hour drive home. Jacobson and Clough, let's lump them together. Clough, 8 points, 7 rebounds, did have 4 fouls, 2 blocks, and a steal. Or Clough had that. I don't know who I said. Jacobson had 10 points and 5 of 6 shooting, 1 rebound, 1 assist, 3 fouls, and 2 blocks in 13 minutes. This was a Clough game. We kind of talked about it earlier with some of the high hedging and stuff like that. Right, where it just suits Clough more when Purdue needs a big to be able to push out on the perimeter. Jacobson just wasn't really able to do that. Offensively, Jacobson was good, got to his looks. His only miss was he just rimmed out. I don't know, another quiet 8 and 7 for Clough, where it's just like, oh yeah, he's nearing a double-double once again.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought he was really, really good defensively in the first half, and Steinbach got going eventually in the second half. A decent amount of that against Jacobson, I felt like, but just really, really good on that end. I will say with Jacobson, we've talked about him coming into the season as this big time lob threat, and we see a couple every game. But I thought this was the most dramatic in terms of how much that was pronounced in this game. I think all 5 that he hit were lobs, maybe one put back. I don't remember, but I
Yeah.
just it just stuck out like a sore thumb out there on the court that we can get to that lob, whether it's coming from TK, whether it's coming from Braden, it didn't matter. He was available, and he doesn't miss that very often.
Yeah, and one of Braden's misses, one of his 5 were off of where it felt like he was going to go to the lob on Jacobson, and he ended up just trying to go off glass, and he left it short. But it's always there, to your point. And I actually like Jacobson's post moves as well when he's able to kind of put his body into someone, turn around, hook. Like you can see for a freshman that's still got to, get in the weight room a little more. I know that's always a point of emphasis, but you can see the fundamentals and the technique that he possesses and how comfortable he looks once he gets into his motion. Bump, turn around, bang, hook. It all looks good to me. So you can kind of see that vision for the future of how successful he will be the older he gets. Let's continue to move this around so these guys can get out of Mackey Arena. Any final players before we get to player of the game and game balls and play of the game?
I think we need to at least
mention Meyer. Okay, yeah, Meyer. Like we've talked about. I can't see his stats anymore, Greg. We've talked about Meyer's struggles offensively a little bit. Put him up, Greg.
I didn't know you just started talking, so I thought you were done with them. 8 points on 3 of 4 shooting. There it is.
Yeah, 2 of 2 from 3. I thought both. Every shot he took tonight, I thought was in the flow of the game. I think that's the most important. He didn't go out and try to create something off the dribble. The only one that he did have to create off the dribble was that end of half shot, which was such incredible difficulty that he hits kind of fallen out of bounds from 18.
That banked. Right? That banked in. Right?
I don't know. I didn't see it in real time. Maybe it did bank in. I didn't
somebody
see it in real time,
somebody that watched on the broadcast, they probably would have showed it again. Like maybe I just missed that.
Hey, he's starting to get like some David Jenkins level hate shot clocks. Like he hasn't been tasked with taking a lot of them, but he is money at end of clock. But I thought he was also, for the most part, pretty controlled. Still just a little bit slower to read plays developing than what Braden is. And the one area that I'd really like to see him focus on is we are so accustomed with Braden that Braden hits guys in their shooting pocket. Like when that ball comes to them, it hits them in the hands so that they catch it and are ready to go directly into their shooting motion. A lot of the passes from Meyer will still, be a little low, a little bit outside, a little bit inside, whatever. I think that's something he'll continue to improve on and work on. He's going to read things quicker. Just the more game experience that he gets, the more time that he gets around these guys. But he really, really needed to see some shots go in. So I thought tonight was huge for him.
Yeah, I don't got much more. Like I think you nailed it. Hit a couple big time shots. Can handle the processing, still just a little bit slow. Defensively, like he can be good on any given night. He really can be.
And that is a good segue to our plays of the game. And I'll go first since it sticks to the topic at hand. And for me, it was an Omar Meyer 3 in the second half. It was a big shot and a big moment, but more importantly for me, it wasn't rushed. I know you guys mentioned how deliberate he is, but young players have a tendency to force shots up, especially when the game starts to get tight. And he had an opportunity on the 3-point elbow right in front of Purdue's bench to jack one up, and instead he reset, threw it to Braden Smith, and then Braden kind of got the offense kind of set a little better, and he kicked it right back over to Omar Meyer, who was in a much better shooting position, and then he knocks down the three in stride. And I just thought that was just such a mature move by a young player who's trying to make a name for himself, trying to get himself worked back into the offense and making buckets. And so for me, that will always go a long way for me when somebody makes the right decision and then he's immediately rewarded for that.
Yeah. Kraig, do you want next play of the game or me?
No, go ahead.
For me, it'll be it was the Painter calls a timeout with like 8:15 left. I think Washington had pushed it to 9, like gotten the lead down to, I think it was 9 or 10. And basically, Braden just comes down after the timeout, just drills like a 15-foot fadeaway, and it just settled Purdue. It just settled Purdue. I know Washington still got it, like was even able to push it a little bit closer, but like to me, that was the bucket where it was just like, oh yeah, Braden's like one of the best players in the country. He's an All-American. Like we know what he can do passing, but when the time comes, he can just take over a game with the scoring.
You know, the amusing thing to me is there was like 6 or 7 ESPN highlight type plays, and we haven't like picked any of those. There's a side pick and roll between Smith and TKR. TK gets the pass, lobs it up for an easy dunk to DJ. That was incredible. Trey's shot fake and step through. CJ's one-handed pass rip to Clough, I thought was a highlight play in this one. And Smith had a one-handed just like dribbling down pop up. Like just pops it up to Jacobson trailing for a dunk. But I'm going to be like you guys. I'm not going to pick the ESPN highlight play. I've already referenced the play I'm going to pick. And just because like it is so important that if Smith's in foul trouble, if Smith's denied the ball, whatever, that in critical moments, we have somebody that can go out there and get a bucket. And just for the moment in the game that it was similar to what you were saying and yours, Joe, in terms of why you picked it, I'm going with CJ's dribble into like that 5-foot range and then turn around, fade away, mid-range jump shot to put us back. I think that put us back up by 10 at that point.
Yeah. So that, I mean, I think that's a good one for sure. That does get us to player of the game, which Kraig, I guess, would be you first.
I mean, I got to go with Braden here. Like I said, Braden came out super, super aggressive with his shot, the stat line that he put up. Minus the 6 turnover stat, obviously, we'd like to see that get down a little bit lower. But more than anything, I thought down the stretch, just being a consistent steadying force and hitting mid-range pull-ups whenever Purdue needed one.
That goes to me. I'll take kind of the other easy option, I would say, in TKR, 14 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. I know he had the turnovers, but like, yeah, just a very, very impressive night from TKR all around.
Greg's going to figure out a way to pick Benner still somehow.
Why are you stealing my joke? That is what I was going to say. Jack Benner, 1 of 1. Perfect on the night.
Took a charge.
Greatest of all time. Took a charge. That's right, Jason Depew. Like it's only a matter of time. You can't stop Benter. You can only hope to contain him. Great job from Jack Benner, Jason Depew, $5 super chat. Another great show, guys. I got to stop taking play of the game first because then it rotates back to me, and then I'm left with nothing but scraps. I'm kidding. That's probably not nice to call the other 10 players scraps.
Wow.
Jason Depew, $5 super chat. Another great show, guys. Thanks as always for the content. Everyone, hit the like button. Appreciate you, Jason. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Salty B and late night.
You didn't make your pick.
I did.
Jack Benner.
I said Jack Benner. Why? I got to be serious every night. This has been like another terrible post-game show for me. Let me just finish on the same note that I've had, which is not good all night.
That is such a cop-out.
Yeah, well, that's what you get. That's what you get. Now, I saw you guys highlighted a bunch of comments, or like 7 or 8 of them. I know you guys want to get out of there. So if there's one in particular you guys want to touch on before we go, or if you want to close it up, I understand it's late night for you guys.
I'll bring this one up really quick from Blake Widmer. Said, question defending baseline out of bounds. Purdue's been putting guards on opposing teams' bigs out on perimeter and just handing them a mismatch. Any idea what we think we gain by mismatching intentionally? I think without fully knowing, my guess would be it's just trying to make the inbounds pass harder. So that way you, one, don't give up an easy just layup right off of that, but also trying to kind of take teams out of their sets, and where by doing that, oftentimes the only kind of pass you can make is the super lob pass over the top, but then you do have the mismatch. They've done better than today. Wasn't a good day of like doing this, but they've done better before of like, as the pass kind of flies in, being able to scram switch outs. But that's my thought. I would have to ask Painter specifically.
Yeah, the only other one that I would bring up is from Rowlett TX Boiler. Why are we talking about seed in January? Long season ago. It is a long season, but all of these games count. I was even watching Alabama tonight and Texas Tech last night, because had those guys, those teams gotten those wins, it's really, really good for Purdue's resume. It all builds up over the season. There's a lot that's going to go into it, but the stuff matters right now. And I think the most important thing related to this is, for me, the top 5 teams in the country, I think, are just on such another tier, even though they'll still play some close games against teams they shouldn't. I think they're on such another tier than everybody else that a game or two here and there is going to be the difference between getting a 1 seed or potentially being the number 1 seed overall.
Right. And if it's 5 and then the separators after the 5, you don't want to be that 4th 1 seed that then might get put with the 2 seed that's one of those 5, right? I mean, that's a long way to go from projecting all those things. And I understand the frustration from Rowlett. Like, why are we talking about that? But to your point, Kraig, like, to get a 1 seed, all these games matter. This tonight is another step towards that 1 seed. Your margin of error is so small to get a 1 seed. They're going to make the tournament. There's been years as a fan that you worry about your team not even making the tournament. Now we're worried about, can this team get a 1 seed? So like that, again, going back to the kind of the start of this show and where the standards have changed and the way we view games like this, it's just night and day. And it's something to be appreciated and applauded and just soak it in. But it just changes the expectation, the pressure, and the standard and everything else. And that's just a testament to what Matt Painter and Purdue and all these players have built. So that wraps things up here for tonight. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate every one of you as always. And Kraig and Joe, thank you for your hard work at Mackey Arena tonight and your analysis here on tonight's show. Drive safe, and appreciate everyone in the chat continuing to root for my Bears here coming up on Saturday. Another big one. I know I keep saying that it's broken record. So, but it is. My mental health is on the line in 2 days. So if you care about me in any way, shape, or form, just, have a little thought for me on Saturday night. While you guys are doing a post-game show, I'll be at a tailgate getting all amped up for the Bears and the Packers. So I'll wish you guys luck on Saturday. You guys wish me luck. And at the end of the day, we'll always have our Boilers. So appreciate every single one of you. Have a good night. And always, Boiler up.